Welcome back to our strategy series for UPSC Civil Service Examinations. Now, one of the first things that we mentioned in the previous video was how do we minimize the number of resources to be used so that we can clear UPSC without much hindrances. And one of the resources is what we are going to talk about today, and that is what we call as the syllabus. Now, when you talk about the syllabus, we all think, oh, the syllabus is a very simple thing. We know what it is. But have you actually read the syllabus? Have you read the UPSC's notification? Because if you have not done this, you are actually failing out. Because in our experience, when we start dealing with students and when we talk to them, one of the first few things that we notice is that not a lot of people actually go through the syllabus. Now, I'll also give you the numbers for this. Like in the UPSC examination, you would have noticed that almost around 1.5 to 1.6 million people apply, and around 1 million people actually write this examination. But out of this 1 million people, it is less than 10,000 people who make it to the mains. And when we talk to the people, we have understood that one of the basic things that most people who clear this exam and most people who don't clear this exam do and don't do is that they read the notification very properly, with effort. So if you are someone who wants to be in the top 1,000 people so that you make it into the final list, please make sure that you read the UPSC's notification/syllabus. Now, for our benefit, I have actually brought the syllabus down here. And like we mentioned, like this is basically the UPSC's notification. If you want to go find it, just go to Google and just type down UPSC notification Civil Service Examination, and this is one of the first few links that you will see. Now, this is basically a 157-page notification, and this is where a lot of people actually stop reading it, because when you look at 157 pages and when you talk to other people, you realize that you might not need to actually go through this document. But that is where you're wrong, because out of this 157 pages, barely there are 20 to 30 pages which are useful for us. So I would highly recommend that whoever you are, if you're someone who's dedicated and who is willing to become a civil servant, you have to go through the notification. Now, I will go through the notification and we will go through the notification together so that you see what to read and what not to read. Now, when you take up the notification, there are a lot of things that you see here. Yes, these are all important, but these are not important for the exam. These are not the stages. These are all things that you do before the stages, like when you apply, how do you apply, what are the qualifications for you to take any reservation. Let's say that you're someone who's OBC or EWS or whoever you are. If you need reservation, there are some qualifications. All of that is mentioned in the same notification. So if you are one of those people, and if you are anyone who's applying, there are a lot of things that you have to go through before you write the exam. So these are things, and also when you apply for the exam. So these are things that I would recommend that you all highly go through. But like, for example, mobile phone is banned. So if you're someone who who always keeps carrying a mobile phone, please make sure that you don't carry it wherever you go. And please make sure that when you go for the exam, you keep it somewhere else. So all of these things you would notice, and if you actually put some effort to read the notification. Now, here, when you go down, you actually see the services which are open this year. And here you would see that there are almost 23 services which are recruiting people for this examination, including the IAS, IFS, Police Service, IAS, Indian Civil Accounts, Corporate Law Service, Defense Accounts, Defense Estates, and you from Group A can also reach Group B, like including Pondicherry Police Services. Now, the numbers and vacancies are actually given here, and this year we can see there are almost 979 vacancies, out of which 38 are reserved for persons with benchmark disability category. All of this, you don't need to focus on that as much, because your aim is to actually come in this 979. Right. If you ask me, I would say your aim has to come in the top 1 to 10 people, but 979 is not a bad number for now, for starters. Right. Now, as you go down, you will actually see the number of vacancies here for each service, and including which service has vacancies for disability people and all. So if you're someone who's looking for that, please go through them. But as a normal aspirant, we might not have to actually go through them in detail. There's also a separate page which is showing the number of centers which are available for your prelims exam and the number of centers available for your mains exam. So again, keep this in your mind, because whenever you apply, you have to actually give your preferences. And once you apply, please remember, this is very important. Once you apply, you cannot change these preferences. Let's say that you apply and say you want to write your exam in Warangal, you want to write your prelims in Warangal, but then you apply that, you know what, maybe I want to take a trip, so I will go to my mains in Delhi, and then you want to change it. That is impossible. So when you apply, please make sure that it is a center that is close to wherever you are right now. If you're living in a hostel somewhere in a city like Delhi or Chennai or Mumbai or Bangalore, make sure that it's somewhere close by. So let's make sure it's the same city, because it's easy for you to access. If you're living in a state which has only one center for prelims, but doesn't have any centers for mains, make sure that you choose the closest one for ease of convenience, because at that time, when the exams are going on, you do not have time to think about these things, right? Okay. So please remember, when you apply for the exam, all your preferences become very, very important. Anything you give cannot be changed at any point. So all of this you would know if you actually go through the notification, right? Now, if you go down, you will also see, yes, this is where our thing starts, because it is talking about the plan of examination. Now, when you talk about the plan of examination, they say, oh, there is a preliminary examination, which is objective type, and then there is a main examination which is written, and then there is an interview. So these are the things that you have to know. So like I said, there are 3 stages: prelims, mains, and interview, right? And then when we come down, yes, what are your eligibility conditions? Most of us are eligible. If you have a doubt, please go through them, especially if you also have doubts about your age. Because sometimes people come to me and tell me, oh, I'm just becoming 21, or I have just turned 32 or 33, so I'm still eligible. The only way for you to know if you're eligible or not is actually to go through your through the notification and see the dates corresponding to every for any service or any category that you are. Okay, so the notification, like I said, is very important in that sense for you to always go through them. And then I'm actually going to come down, because like I said, not all of it is as important to us for the exam, from the exam point of view. Yeah. Yeah. And now when we come down here is where we talk about the plan of the exam. As mentioned before, we have a prelims, which is objective, mains, which is written, and then an interview or a personality test. Now, here when you go down, yes, here we have the papers, right? Now, for your prelims exam, like we mentioned in the previous video, there are 2 papers, right? And what are these 2 papers? That we will see here. Yeah. For prelims examination, paper 1, which is for 200 marks, will have questions from all of these topics. We have current events of national and international importance, history of India and Indian national movement, Indian and the world geography, again, which goes into specific details of physical, social, economic geography of India and the world. Then you have polity and governance, including constitution, panchayati raj, public policy, rights, whichever it is. Then you have economic and social development, general issues on environment, ecology, biodiversity and climate change, and general science. So if you're someone who's very weak in science and say, oh, you know what, I don't want to learn science, I'm just going to focus on the other subjects, you are taking a huge chance, because you can see here that science itself is mentioned very clearly in your preliminary exam, in your syllabus. So please remember, please be very careful that when you write an exam, it is very important that you go through the syllabus. And if you don't go through the syllabus, you're actually going into the battle blindfolded. You know what happens when you go to the battle blindfolded, because you don't know where the attack is coming from, who the attacker is. And here, if you want to win this battle called UPSC Civil Service Examination, you have to know where your enemy is going to strike. And here, it is very important for you to know what kind of weapons do they carry, and in that is this one. So we have paper 1, where you have current affairs, history, geography, Indian polity, economy, general issues, and general science. So please make sure that you do put an effort to actually learn these subjects if you want to clear prelims. Then you have paper 2, which we have mentioned is CSAT. Again, for a duration of 2 hours, it has comprehension, interpersonal skills, and including communication skills. Then you have logical reasoning, general decision making and problem solving, general mental ability, and basic numeracy. And please remember, here people have a doubt. Oh, what kind of level do we have to get to? What do we learn? What kind of books do we read? Do you want us to learn the banking level exams, or do you want us to learn like subjects for that, for your RBI level exams? The answer is very simple. It is mentioned in your syllabus. Like I mentioned, please go through your syllabus. It is mentioned very clearly that all of it is basically your class 10 level questions. So you don't have to learn too much. You just have to know the bare minimum if you want to qualify your CSAT. A lot of our students do come and tell us that, oh, they have done their GS very well, but they're very unsure about CSAT. That is a very dangerous slope to be in, because we as an academy and we as mentors, we have seen so many students who actually don't clear the exam just because they do not qualify CSAT. And that is a very sad place to be, because when you don't qualify CSAT, you don't even get a chance to go to any stages. So CSAT, the marks are not being counted. You just need to qualify CSAT, right? And there are also sometimes when people go write the exam and they write the GS and they take off in the afternoon, so they don't write CSAT. That's also I would personally say it's a very dumb thing to do, because if you don't write CSAT, then you're not giving this exam a chance. So if you are a serious student, if you're a serious aspirant, and if you want to be a civil servant next year, it's very important that you actually give importance to your CSAT, right? So CSAT is, again, it is only for prelims, but it is qualifying. Like I mentioned, you don't have to be worried about anything, because if you're sitting here, if you're watching this, you probably have cleared your 10th standard. And if you've cleared your 10th standard, that's all we need for you to clear your UPSC prelims CSAT paper, right? So again, like I said, everything is mentioned in the syllabus. So whatever exam you're going to take, it might be UPSC Civil Services, it might be RBI Grade U, whichever it is, please go through your syllabus, because your syllabus will guide you as to what you need to learn and where you need to stop. Because one of the things that we would have noticed when you come to civil services is that the syllabus is very, very big. And when the syllabus is very big, you think, oh, you have to learn everything. When you take up a newspaper, you want to be looking through all 200 news articles. You don't have to do that. What you need to do is to learn how to limit things. And one of the first things to learn how to limit things is your syllabus. So please take some effort. It might take half an hour of your time, but this half an hour will save a lot of time for you in the future. It will save a lot of effort for you in the future. It will guide you in the right direction, right? So we are going through your prelims. Now we come to the mains. Now again, we are all confused. Oh, so what do they look for in mains? What are they looking for as in an aspirant? What do they want to learn when they go through when they actually see your mains answers? The answer is again in the syllabus, because if you see here, the main examination is intended to assess the overall intellectual traits and depth of understanding of candidates, rather than merely the range of their information and memory. So instead of just mugging up numbers and instead of just blurting out information, what they're actually looking for is your intellectual traits. Are you able to understand topics? Are you able to comprehend situations? Are you able to comprehend questions? Because even that is as we go along, you will notice even understanding the question becomes very important for you to clear your mains, right? And then they also look at your depth of understanding. Are you able to go deep into a topic? Are you able to understand why this is a problem or how to solve this problem? Because as civil servants, that is what you're going to be doing in the future, because the country is depending on you to get a lot of things done, right? Now, so here we talk about mains, and then here in the mains, they have also mentioned, yes, the questions are from paper 2 to paper 4. We will see what paper 2 to paper 4 are. That is, a well-educated person will be able to answer them without any specialized study. Like I mentioned before, they're not looking for geographers, they're not looking for sociologists, they're not looking for politicians. What are they looking for? They're looking for people who are able to answer them generally without any specialized study, right? These questions will be a test of a candidate's general awareness of a variety of subjects which will have relevance for your career in civil services. Again, everything is mentioned in your syllabus. Can you see why I'm trying to, like, why we're trying to focus on the syllabus? Because the syllabus is going to guide you into what you need to learn or what you need to do to actually crack this exam, right? The questions are likely to test a candidate's basic understanding of all relevant issues and ability to analyze and take a view on conflicting socio-economic goals, objectives, and demands. The candidates must give relevant, meaningful, and succinct answers. Again, all of these are mentioned in your syllabus. So if you can just go through the syllabus, it will be a huge boon for your examination. Just like that, now we come to one topic which, again, a lot of people have questions over. We have optional subjects. What do we learn? What do we do? Very clearly, in the syllabus, it has been mentioned, the syllabus is, for the examination, is broadly of the honors degree level 1. That is a level higher than your bachelor's degree, but lower than your master's degree. This is exactly what we need if you want to clear UPSC. You need to know what to learn, how to learn, and how much to learn. And this is being very clearly mentioned in your syllabus. Again, syllabus, very important for any exam, especially for UPSC, right? Now, in the case of engineering, medicine, science, medical science, and law, the level corresponds to the bachelor's degree, because that's a little bit tougher. So, engineering, medical science, and law, the level is mostly bachelor's degree. But for anything else, be it anthropology, be it botany, be it even your language papers, because there are some of us who actually take languages as an optional. Some of us take only Hindi, English, not English, but Hindi, Malayalam, even English. I think, yeah, even English. So you take this. And then you understand that, oh, you know what? You actually have to learn a little bit more than what a bachelor student would know, but not as much as what a master's student needs to know. Very simple, again, mentioned in your syllabus, right? And then, like we mentioned yesterday, there are also 2 papers which are qualifying papers on your Indian languages and English. So one is English, and then you have an Indian language. In Indian language, again, this is the same pattern for every single paper. There's a comprehension, there's a précis, there is usage and vocabulary, and there is short essays. Just one difference from between the English qualifying paper and the Indian language paper. So there is a small section which is giving you short essays and translation from English to the Indian language and vice versa. Because UPSC is the one who's hiring you for very prestigious positions in the country. So they need to be able to know that you as a candidate or you as a future civil servant are able to understand English in the local language of your choice. And you're also able to understand your local language of your choice and bring it back into English. So this basic skill of communication is something that they're testing through your qualifying papers, right? So any questions that you have, and these, to be honest, these are some of the questions that I've had in my beginning year as a civil service aspirant, because I used to wonder, oh, but what do we learn for your mains? Oh, but what do you learn for your prelims? Oh, but how much do you learn for your prelims? Or what do you stop? How do you know how to stop? All of it is mentioned in your syllabus. So I am saving you a lot of time. Please go through this. Trust us, trust the process. You will actually earn a lot of benefits from this, right? Now, when we talk about these papers, yeah. So for your mains, we mentioned there are 9 papers, right? And there is 1 to 5, and there is 6 and 7. 1 to 5 are your like general paper. No, I mean, I wouldn't say general studies, but 1 to 5 are like, for the first paper here is basically your essay paper. So here a candidate is required to write essays on multiple topics. They will give you multiple topics. Beginning around 12 years ago, it used to be just 1 essay, but nowadays it's more than 2, like 1 to 2 essays. So you would be prepared, or you would have to write 2 essays in a period of 3 hours, and you are expected to keep closely to the subject of the essay, to arrange your ideas in an orderly fashion, and to write concisely. Again, every single thing that you need to do as a civil service aspirant and to become a civil servant in the future is mentioned in your syllabus. Credit will be given for effective and exact expression. So please, whenever you get the time, whenever you feel like you don't know what you're doing or you don't know where to start or you don't know how to do a new topic, please go through the syllabus, right? So paper 1, as we mentioned, is your essay. Sorry. Then you have paper 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2 is basically your general studies 1 paper. That is here. You will see this here. I'm going to use a different color. So it's general studies 1. Oh, what are the odds I'm using a saffron color for this? So general studies 1, we have Indian heritage and culture, history and geography of the world, and society. See, very simple topics. All you need to do is to actually go through the syllabus. For the GS paper 1, you actually need to go learn about in the Indian heritage and culture, history, geography of the world, and society. Now, you might have a question, oh, but this sounds very big. Yes, this is very big. You will have Indian heritage and culture can talk about a lot of things. It can be anything that you can think about. But if you have actually gone through the papers, if you have gone to the previous questions, you would have noticed that there is a pattern that they follow. And I have come to the realization that this pattern is exactly the one that is mentioned in your syllabus. So if you see here, they talk about Indian culture, but Indian culture, they have specifically mentioned it is not just any culture. It will cover the salient aspects of art forms, literature, and architecture from ancient to modern times. Can they be any more specific? They have come and told you that in Indian culture, they will be focusing on art forms, literature, and architecture from ancient to modern times. And if you go through any of the previous year questions, which is the second thing that we will talk about in the next class, but if you go through any of your questions, you would notice that your 90% or 95% of all the questions that has come from Indian culture is actually from these 3 topics. Very simple. Only thing is you need to pay an extra attention to the syllabus and then learn accordingly. Now, and then when we come to history, we have modern Indian history, and they have specifically said modern Indian history starts when? In the middle of the 18th century until the present. Okay, and they have also mentioned it is not just events, but they're also talking about personalities and issues. So you would have noticed that there are some questions which are talking about personalities, and then you'll be wondering, we were not expected to learn this. You were, because it is mentioned in your syllabus. Then they talk about the freedom struggle. Yes, very important because it's a very separate section. Again, you will learn them as we go along the classes. Then there is post-independence consolidation, which is something that is not mentioned in your, it is not mentioned in your prelims. Even though it comes in a little bit of history, in a little bit of current affairs in your prelims, post-independent consolidation and reorganization within the country is not a huge topic for your prelims. You wouldn't know this unless you actually go through the syllabus, right? And then we talk about the history of the world. History of the world, we have events from the 18th century. So you don't have to learn about, Homo sapiens, where were they, what were they doing? No, you don't have to learn any of those things. What you have to learn, though, is things from the 18th century, including things like Industrial Revolution, World Wars, redrawal of national boundaries, again, very important topic, very important for us today also, colonization, decolonization, political philosophies like communism, capitalism, socialism, and their forms and effects on the society. So these are things that have been very, very clearly mentioned in your syllabus, and these are the things that have been repeatedly asked during the exams. Okay. And then we have, then we come to society. When we talk about society, what are the salient features of Indian society? Because we always talk about unity and diversity in unity. So diversity of India. Then we have women specific topics like women organizations. Okay. Then we have population specific topics. We have poverty and development issues, and also things like urbanization, globalization on Indian society, social empowerment, and also secularism and regionalism. So these are all things coming to this. All of these things are mentioned in your syllabus. Very simple things. If you want to clear this exam, one of the first things you need to know is you need to learn what are the specific things mentioned in your syllabus. Because if you as a person are able to understand each and every single word mentioned here, you're able to say, okay, they ask you a topic about secularism, and then you're able to talk about something, like a civil servant would do, you are almost in. So, but if you want to know which are the topics that you need to learn about like this, you have to go through your syllabus, right? And then we talk about geography, because here we can see there is world's physical geography. And in that, there are two basic topics. One is distribution of key natural resources across the world, including South Asia and the Indian subcontinent. Then factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors in various parts of the world, including India. So when we start learning geography, one of the first things that we will learn is, how do we use the basic resources to learn geography? And one of the basic resources that we will talk about, and one of the resources that I am going to use for almost everything you need to learn, would be maps. But we will come to that very soon. But please remember, maps are going to be one of the most important tools that you will use to learn, relearn, and even get into this services, right? And then there is, geophysical phenomena, but like what? Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, cyclones, etc. Now, geographical features and their location they're also there, including water bodies and ice caps, and in flora and fauna and the effect of such changes. So if you are a person who's actually writing the civil service mains exam, and if you have gone to the syllabus, you would know what to learn for you to clear this exam. This is not a very difficult exam. This is a very, I wouldn't say this is the most, I wouldn't say that this is an impossible exam. This is a very possible exam, but you have to put in the effort. And that effort has to be smart work, like we mentioned always, and we'll always keep mentioning. And one of the smart work things that you can do for you to clear this exam is to go through your syllabus, right? So paper 2, we have talked about GS1, and paper 3, we're going to talk about GS2. GS2, we talk about, what are the main topics for GS2? We have governance, constitution, polity, social justice, and international relations. Again, very clearly mentioned in your syllabus. Now, I'm going to give you a small homework for you to do. Please go through your syllabus. Please take up your notifications or your syllabus today. Go through it and find out what you need to learn for your GS2. Right? Again, just go through it and you will learn how simple can this process become. Because when you go through, you will know, you know what? Okay, you have to learn about the Representation of People's Act. But what does that do? Right? So please, this is a very, very simple process to do, very simple exercise for you to do. Go through it whenever you can, because this will help you jump through a lot of loops. It will help you immensely for this exam, right? And then you can also do, paper 4, which is GS3, we have technology, economic development, biodiversity, environment, security, and disaster management. So all of these topics are actually coming where? They're actually coming in GS3. Right. One of the things which I used to say when I was doing my exams was, GS3 is basically everything that has not been covered by GS1 and 2. That can be kind of true, but it's not exactly true, because if you want to learn, if you want to know where the questions are going to come from, you have to go through your syllabus, right? So we have economy. You have topics here, including land reforms in India. I do teach economics, and I wouldn't say this is my favorite topic. This is kind of one of my most boring topics, but still present for your exam. So you would notice which are the topics you have to clear. You would notice which are the topics you have to go through for you to clear the exam. And that the only way for you to know which of these topics you have to go through is, again, going through your syllabus, right? So then there is science and technology here, because they talk about, when you'll have questions, are they going to ask questions about, let's say refraction, or are they going to ask questions about chemical reactions? Just go through the syllabus and you will know that what they're going to ask is basically, what are the developments going on today? So what is coming in the newspapers, or what is going on in the current affairs, and their applications and effects in your everyday life. Very simple topics, but again, please go through it. And then achievements of Indians in science and technology, because they will ask you, there are these people here, or there are these things that happen. How did that happen? Indigenization of technology and developing new technologies. Again, we will learn all of this as we go along. But what I'm trying to tell you here is that these are all very simple topics, like nanotechnology, biotechnology, relating to IPRs, very simple topics. Only thing you have to do is actually put in the effort to learn them. And how do you, where do you start learning them? You learn by knowing where to stop. So again, syllabus very important, go through it. Then you have environment, so they have conservation, environment pollution, environmental impact assessments. You also have disaster and disaster management in your paper 3, in your GS paper 3. Then you have linkages between development and spread of extremism. There is external security and non-state actors, internal security. So all of these are very simple topics, but the only thing you have to do is to actually go through your syllabus. Now, we come to paper 4, which is basically your GS4. Paper 5, which is GS4. And this is ethics, integrity, and aptitude also. This is what I believe to be one of the most simple papers for UPSC. But we, as aspirants, actually complicate it. Make it very, very, very complicated. You think 200 things, you think about 100 ways of writing it, you think of... basically, you just make it very difficult for yourself. UPSC is putting this exam or making this a part of your process for a reason, and that reason is for us to be more ethically aware. So if you know the syllabus, just go through syllabus. These are all very simple topics, and if you know this syllabus, if you know the things that are mentioned in the syllabus, and you have a basic understanding, again, what I'm saying is very basic understanding. You don't have to learn about, oh, what do these philosophers say, what do these 200 people say. No, what you need to know is how do you use ethics in your daily life, or how do you use ethics in some situations, or how do you judge what is right or wrong for you. All of this you would learn if you actually go through your syllabus. So please, again, when you get the time, please go through this. Now, paper 6 and paper 7 are basically your optional subjects. And optional subjects, you remember, we know we have one optional. So if you, let's say that you choose one option like geography, you have just one optional. But in this one optional, you will have 2 papers, which is paper 1 and paper 2. And no matter which optional you choose, you're going to have paper 1 and paper 2. So these are your basically papers, paper 6 and paper 7. Now, optional papers, again, whichever option you decide, please go through the syllabus, because the syllabus will help you decide what not to learn and what to learn or what to give focus on. So if you're agriculture, it's right here. And then paper 2, paper 1, paper 2 for them. Animal husbandry, paper 1, paper 2 for them. Paper 2 for animal husbandry. And this will keep going on. So you would notice that out of the 157 pages that we talked about, most of it is actually going in your optionals. Most of it is, which is not even useful for us, right? So because you're not taking all options, you're just taking one option. Now, which option that you choose is very important here, because this is the way you learn. You go through the syllabus, you find which of these options are making, like, you are able to understand. Because there are people who take anthropology because you score marks. There are people who take sociology because you score marks. There are people who take geography because you think people score marks. Please don't do that. What you have to take is an optional which actually resonates with you. If you're someone who's very technically minded and you know you can write technical things, go take technical subjects. Like you can take mathematics here, or you can take like engineering subjects here. So all of that, please remember, unless you take like 3 options like engineering subjects or your medical sciences or law, everything needs a level that is more than bachelor's but lesser than a master's. So you have to find a topic that resonates with you, and then trust me when I tell you this, you can easily clear this exam, right? Again, trust the process. You will see as we go along, right? And then in chemistry and so like any subject you take, you will see that the rest of your syllabus here is talking about your optionals. But please remember, when we take an optional, the optional becomes very important, because this optional is where you get the maximum marks, and which is also the reason why this is where you find the maximum mark difference. So the difference between you clearing this exam and you not clearing this exam, or you getting an IAS position instead of you getting maybe an IAAS position, always comes down to marks. And one of the most important areas where you can actually score marks is your optionals. So your options becomes a very, very important topic. The only way to know which option to take is, and the first thing you have to do that is to go through the syllabus. Second thing we'll talk about in the next session, but yeah, economics, and this is the rest of the syllabus. I'm not scaring you here because you don't need to know any of these. Also remember, there is also like literature can also be a, you just have to choose your language. Like you can choose Assamese here, Bengali here. You can choose whichever you want, but be very careful, because unless you actually feel like you can actually learn the subject and write the subject properly, please don't take the options, right? I'll give you a small example because in my head, I always think very objectively. I cannot think of 200 things. I need, so suppose we talk about a project, or suppose we talk about one topic. I would say, oh, there are these 3 things we need to focus on. And these 3 things, this objectivity is something that I have been able to use for my geography option. But in case I had taken an option like sociology, I would not have made any good marks there because I only think objectively. Now, so this is why I'm still telling you, it is very personal. And the only way to know which one to take or which one not to take is to actually go through the syllabus. Right. Now, like we mentioned before, so again, the entire thing that we're talking about here is the syllabus, which we don't, like the more you keep going through it, the more you feel like you know that this is not useful for us. Right. And see, physics, they talk about physics here, public administration here, statistics here, and zoology. I think it ends in geology. Yeah. Then there are instructions for you to apply and instructions for you to write this exam and everything. So again, it is done. So was this a very simple process? It was. The only thing it took is for you to take some effort to actually read through the syllabus. Now, in the next couple of sessions, we will also discuss the next 5 things through which we will minimize the things you need to learn to actually clear this exam. Trust me, these 5 things plus this one thing called the syllabus is all you need to clear the exam. Next, we'll see in your next classes. Thank you.